The Young Dead Soldiers Do Not Speak by Archibald MacLeish, 1941. The young dead soldiers do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night, and when the clock counts. They say, "We were young. We have died. Remember us." They say, "We have done what we could, but until it is finished, it is not done." They say, "We have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave." They say, "Our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make them." They say, whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope, or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this. They say, "We leave you our debts. Give them their meaning. Give them an end to the war and a true peace. Give them a victory that ends the war and a peace afterwards. Give them their meaning." We were young, they say. We have died. Remember us. The Young Dead Soldiers Do Not Speak by Archibald MacLeish, 1941. Shortly we will have the names of the fallen from the Roll of Honour. These are the names of those members of the congregation who served in the 2 world wars, who died in service to their country. Before we read that, I'm just going to mention that the Roll of Honour has been amended. Last year we received a contact from a daughter of one of our members, our past members, who is mentioned in our Book of Remembrance. This is her writing. In the section, "Those who served their country in 1939 to 45, I was very pleased to see my father's name along with 2 of his brothers. My father is Norman Houston, who served with the 9th Battalion of the Royal Northumberland Fusiliers, and he was a Far East prisoner of war in Japan, not his brother Neville. This information can be verified on the FEPOW Roll of Honour. I would be very grateful if the entry in your remembrance book could be corrected." And so we were keen to amend this. We retrieved the Book of Remembrance, visited the Roll of Honour to check the correct information, and we suspect that the names just got mixed up. And so the calligrapher has now amended these details. His name will not be mentioned now because thankfully he did not pass away. He served his country in the Second World War. If anyone would like to see the amendment or details about this individual, Norman Houston, you can read his amendment in the book or see his details online. I'm now going to read a poem, a familiar one I imagine to all of us, before David comes up and reads the names of the fallen in the Roll of Honour. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe.
they shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lawrence Gibbon. David has now kindly agreed to read the names of the fallen of the 2 world wars. Thank you.
The names of those of our congregation who fell during the First World War, 1914 to 1918. Benjamin Carr, Edwin Coysh, Frank Drinkold, John E. Harrison, Carl Norton Levin, MC, George Newton, and Henry H. Smith. The names of those of our congregation who fell during the 1939 to 1945 war. Morris Collingwood, Stanley Crowhall, Flight Sergeant, William Curry, Sergeant, Angus B. Eads, Flight Officer, John Taylor Ellis, Lieutenant, John J. Headley, Flight Sergeant, Ian Hamilton, Sergeant, Peter Lane, Sergeant Engineer, Raymond Martin, Cadet, Tom McCall, Sergeant Air Gunner, Ronald G. Wilkin, Captain, DSO. William Lucas Walters, Sub-Lieutenant. John R. Walters, Lieutenant. And Thomas S. Neal, Prisoner of War, Australian Imperial Forces, Sergeant. Bless me for that.
Thank you very much, David. We will shortly be observing the 2-minute silence at 11 a.m. Before that, I will read another poem, another familiar one. In Flanders fields the poppies blow, by John McCrae. In Flanders fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields. We will now observe the 2-minute silence. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is offence, let me bring pardon. Where there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Master, let me not seek as much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that one receives. It is in self-forgetting that one finds, and it is in pardoning that one is pardoned. It is in dying that one is raised to eternal life. St. Francis's Prayer for Peace. The purpose of the Remembrance Day, the Remembrance Sunday service, is to honour those, particularly of the First and Second World Wars, who fell in service to their country. But over the years, it's become wider than that, and it's an opportunity to recognise the service of all those who have fallen in wars and conflict. If any of you were here for Paul Walker's service a few weeks ago, you'll remember he talked about how religious difference can sometimes cause us to dehumanize other people. And as soon as we do that, it's easy to inflict terrible pain and hurt. But if the other conflicts of the 20th and 21st centuries have taught us anything, it's that with effective propaganda, we can learn to dehumanize others, even without religion. Although many in war-torn countries support the various conflicts going on right now, many do not. The news is filled at the moment with, for example, Israelis denouncing the war in the Middle East, with stories of ordinary people just wanting to live in peace, no matter the religion of their neighbours. This weekend, Armistice Day and Remembrance Sunday allow us to come together, to wash away our divisions, to join in thanks for the service of those who have gone before and those who are falling now. But it is also an opportunity to express our views on current and future losses. I'm going to read an article from The Guardian now about the current protests, or the protests that have happened this weekend in London. Pro-Palestine rallies aren't hate marches. They're an expression of solidarity, helplessness, and frustration. This was written on Monday before the weekend by Nesreen Malik. Some will understandably be wary of these marches, but people feel so strongly about this issue for many reasons. As the streets fill with ever-increasing numbers of pro-Palestine supporters, and with a large protest planned in central London next weekend, just passed, British politicians and commentators are coming up with new ways of describing what is happening, from hate marches, in the words of the Home Secretary, to empty displays of virtue signalling. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has already called the march, which coincides with Armistice Day, provocative and disrespectful. But each attempt to cast this movement as menacing is really a refusal to understand what is going on. The truth is that a large number of people in Britain can feel strongly about the situation in Gaza while not being obsessed with Palestine or motivated by terrorist sympathies. Some will be wary of these marches in good faith, and understandably so. Reported anti-Semitic hate incidents in Britain are rising, and Hamas's 7th of October atrocities have shaken a Jewish diaspora, which saw its mourning immediately eclipsed by sympathy for Gaza. Support for Palestine might seem suspect from a public that does not turn out for many other similar causes. Why does this one issue bring so many out onto the streets when so many other injustices around the world are met with silence? The answer is not entirely straightforward, but nor is it sinister. Palestine is not the world's only injustice, but it is singularly resonant. There is a historical durability and consistency to the conflict. All those years of illegal occupation, displacement, dispossession and resettlement that gives it a shape and place in the public mind that others lack. It is also an injustice that is endorsed and enabled by Western governments which arm Israel in conflict and refuse to condemn its actions. Protest is not just directed at Israel, but at domestic governments and politicians who are seen as having a hand not just in the subjugation of stateless Palestinians, but in crafting an entire moral framework for it. The Palestinian cause has long been part of an interconnected struggle for self-determination and equality. But increasingly, it also sits at the intersection of contemporary global and economic discontents, and has become incorporated into the movement for social and racial justice. There's a universal simplicity to the conflict that transcends political ideology, about the fundamental right to full nationhood, to live in your home in safety and with dignity. These protests must also be understood as a legacy of the war on terror, which was justified on the basis of morality and security, yet was exposed as little but vengeful wrath and the blundering projection of power. The legacy of those 2 decades has been a bitter harvest, millions dead, terrorist organisations exploiting destabilisation in the Middle East, Islamophobia, and the curtailing of civil liberties, as well as a lingering sense that we cannot really trust our leaders or the political system that ensured they face no consequences. It should be no surprise that when you try to convince people that on the issue of Palestine they should trust their government, you are met with a sceptical reception. Protest is a funny thing. It's a mixture of the rational, the emotional, and the tribal. Far from it being a mark of aggression, it is often an expression of helplessness, frustration, and a lack of influence in politics. Often, what is at the heart of it all is a general feeling of something simply being not on, and that those telling you to go home and believe that they know best cannot be trusted. Perhaps there's another motivation too, of comfort and reassurance in an atomised society, in finding others to walk with you and to take your beliefs seriously, especially if they're not represented or taken seriously elsewhere. It's a bad idea to simplify or dismiss popular support for Palestine. It draws, consciously or not, on the lessons of the past and the frustrations of the present. They may not have a PhD in Middle Eastern studies, but in the long run, the instincts of those who have argued for restraint, compassion, adherence to international law, and the bloody pointlessness of reprisal have been proved right. As parts of the Middle East look to be destabilised, they might be yet again. Taken from The Guardian on Monday by Nesreen Malik. Although it is absolutely right that there was some conflict, there was some disruption yesterday, most of the protest was incredibly peaceful. And as Nesreen Malik said, people seem to be expressing their solidarity, but also a sense of huge helplessness and frustration in face of the ongoing wars, both in Europe and in the Middle East. There seems to be an ongoing sense that, what is the point of it? Why are we still killing each other? I know it's generally suggested that you shouldn't bring politics into the pulpit, and I know some people might not have liked the fact I brought up the rallies and the political views around things, around conflicts at the minute, but I felt I couldn't do a Remembrance Sunday service without commenting, without using somebody else's words who expressed what I felt as well. It's astonishing how divisive these conflicts have been, both in Ukraine and in Gaza. But I wanted to leave us with a slightly more uplifting story. Again, taken from The Guardian. If you know me, you know I take a lot from The Guardian because I really like their opinion pieces. And this is actually a story taken from, this is about a story in Germany, in Berlin. I wanted to leave us with the sense that many people are trying to behave differently and be a source of peace and union in a world divided. 6 days after the Hamas attack on Israel, a restaurant known for serving some of Berlin's best hummus announced it would reopen its doors. The restaurant, called Canaan, had been hastily shuttered as Jewish communities across Europe wrestled with a rise in anti-Semitism. But as the world watched in horror as war gripped his homeland, Oz Ben David knew the time had come to reopen. "If you are closing up, you are surrendering to terror," he said. "We will not agree to this kind of language of fear." The decision hinted at the singularity that has defined this restaurant since it opened in 2015. The fruit of a project by Ben David, an Israeli, and Jalil David, a Palestinian, the casual restaurant has long sought to straddle one of the world's most divisive conflicts over a culture-melding menu that serves up dishes such as shakshuka lasagna and hummus ragu. At the heart of Canaan's offering is the unlikely duo of Ben David, who spent his teenage years in an Israeli settlement in the West Bank, and David, a Palestinian Arab from central Israel. The two met in Berlin, bonding over a shared vision of serving up a cuisine inspired by their heritage. "We take the best of both sides. We want to show what's possible," said David. Their efforts are to get an official nod this week. On Wednesday, the pair, so this has happened already, the pair will sit down with Germany's President, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, to share their thoughts on how best to address the tensions sparked locally by the conflict in the Middle East. What Ben David is keen to discuss is the country's hard line on pro-Palestinian rallies and expressions of support for the Palestinian people. German police have responded to a rise in anti-Semitism by preemptively banning several rallies that sought to express solidarity with the Palestinian people. Officials have cited concerns over dangers to public order to explain the stance, as well as the country's historical responsibility towards Israel, given Germany's role as the perpetrator of the Holocaust. It's a political consensus that has remained even as disquiet grows over Israeli strikes that have killed more than 10,000 people and left 2.3 million civilians suffering shortages of water, food, and medicine. I understand they have good intentions, but they missed the point by choosing a favourite, said Ben David. He pointed to Muslim communities in Germany. They need to feel like they belong here. They need to feel that this country can feel their pain. It's a view that's been weeks in the making. On the 7th of October, as news broke that Hamas militants had killed more than 1,400 people in what was described by Joe Biden as the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust, Ben David reeled, swiftly shutting down the restaurant. I was overwhelmed, he said. He lashed out angrily at Hamas, telling David, I wish that we would destroy Gaza. But the response from his partner shocked him. I was full of hate, full of anger, and he hugged me, said Ben David. He had faith in me, and I had fear in me. David said he understood his friend's anger at what Hamas had done. I felt the same, he said. How could they do something like this? You're not fighting for the Palestinians, you're making a problem for Palestinian people. In the days that followed, David called Ben David constantly to check in on him. It was a small gesture, but one that convinced Ben David that the restaurant needed to reopen to help those grappling with the pain of watching the war play out from afar. The decision, taken amid a rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, was a gamble, particularly for a restaurant whose opening party in 2015 had been met with protests and threats. Of course, we were scared. We didn't really know that nothing would happen, said Ben David. The alternative, however, was to continue living in fear. We need to give a place for the fear, to respect it, but still be brave enough to cross through it. We're taking those walls down, he said. People have since poured in through the restaurant's doors, embracing it as a safe space. People are coming because they're looking for an island of peace, he said. A lot of people are getting lost in the violence of both sides at the moment. It's very scary to be scared, and you hear it from both sides. Not everyone has welcomed their overarching message, however, which calls for peace above all. People think it's not strong enough. Jalil is hearing it from his Palestinian family that it's not enough for them, and I'm hearing it a lot from the few Israeli friends I have left. I always tell them, we're not fighting any narrative. We put the Palestinian narrative equally next to the Israeli narrative, and then we try to find the bridges between them. Taken from The Guardian a few days ago. I'd like to think that as more people grow in unity and join their voices together in asking for ceasefires and peace and a cessation to the horror, that their voices will be heard. There is a brave choice to be made by all the world's peoples, those at the bottom, the ordinary people, and the leaders at the top, to see each other as the same humans, to not dehumanize. May this weekend be an opportunity to recognise the sacrifice of the fallen, both in the past and currently, but to stand up for injustice. May we feel that we can stand in solidarity with our fellow human beings, no matter their viewpoints, no matter their religion. And may we have the strength to stand up and say when authorities are wrong. I'm going to extinguish our chalice with another prayer from the American Unitarian Universalists. And then we'll have our final hymn, which is really it's the Go in Peace hymn, so it's a sort of gentle blessing him. We'll have that after this benediction. Spirit of life and love, under the vast spiral of time and space, surrounded by the simple blessings of a community of care and love, we carry the memories of our beloved friends and family with us, back to the community and life they loved. Grant us strength, wisdom, and thanksgiving. Give us strength to speak of our lives so that each day yet to come we find more compassion, more understanding, more of the loving kindness that fills our world with joy and laughter. Give us courage to cherish one another so that we use our lives to heal instead of forget, and lead ourselves to the possibility of forgiveness instead of defiance. We give thanks for those who have fallen. Their memory lives on in the great spirit of life that surrounds us. And their memory, cherished by us, dwells deeply throughout us and remains in our hearts. Spirit of love and life, remind us to love life as fully as we are able. And may the spirit of love, life, and compassion imbue those in power with a sense of love for their fellow human. May we learn, all of us, to love each other, to feel compassion for those who are different from us, because ultimately there is no difference.